Alright, let's keep doing this. I'm driving at night, which isn't the most exciting thing ever, but it will work anyways. Let's see how this goes. I'm driving through Spain right now, as you can see with Leon on the map. And my truck is at 50% damage, which is typical for me. And don't worry, I'm better than this in real life. And I don't know, I'm just doing a quiet morning. I'm waiting on hearing back about a really interesting position here locally in New York, which I really want as a data engineer. And so I'm waiting on getting the actual interview. I had a good conversation with their CTO yesterday, so I'm hoping that will turn into a job that I can keep for a couple years at least, if not 5 to 10. We'll see what I do. Looks fun. They want to give me a senior position, which would be very pleasant. And it really, I think putting my cover letter down as a video worked, in other words, so steal my idea and do that. Because I really have everything I need now. The hardest thing about tech is getting started, and that took me a while to get my feet wet, but I now have experience in banking and startups and established companies outside of banking, so I'm a pretty high demand individual now. And right now I need to make a salary for at least the next 4 to 5 years and work my way up in the data engineering pipeline. But once I've done that sufficiently, I should be able to live for a while. I might then do a startup myself. I don't know. That's so far down the road. Right now I want to get a stable job as a senior data engineer, make a good chunk of change, save up $1 million, and then move on from there. That's my goal. And then see what I want to do from there on out. That's my goal right now. Yeah, aside from that, just playing this game and thinking about Trump's tariffs. And I was thinking earlier today, why is it that the president can issue tariffs unilaterally without going through Congress first, but if an ally were attacked, he's limited as to how much military aid we can send them? Now, I understand this wouldn't apply to Ukraine or Israel because we don't have defense pacts with either one, but it still makes me wonder, if the United States president could just say, okay, under certain situations we can just send our allies weaponry as much as possible. Why not? Well, why not do that? Of course, it would have to be done after the attack. It would have to be done without troop deployments. But if Russia knew that if they attack a country of ours, not only are they, if they attack an ally of ours, most likely a NATO member state, because a naval invasion into Japan would probably fail. And South Korea already has so many defenses. I will be a little surprised if they actually attack South Korea. Which brings me, then I think that would further deter aggression. But again, this can only be done as long as these weapons are used appropriately, as long as they're in defensive wars only, as long as the list goes on. Under those situations, I see no reason why the president should not be able to send them as many weapons as we possibly can to deter an aggressor. It would massively increase the value of an American alliance, and it would really deter bad actors. That being said, if you have a situation like our ally Venezuela, which is still technically a member of the Rio Pact, even though they're suspended, once you're suspended, the president doesn't have the unilateral authority to send you weapons until Congress says you have reached the requirements to be an ally of the United States. Of course, I would love for Venezuela to democratize, for Maduro to be out of office, and for their country to reestablish their constitution. I think that would be good for Venezuelans. But, there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about when it comes to the costs and benefits, because we have a choice. We can either do it the way we're doing, where the president's limited as to the amount of aid they can send to an ally without congressional approval, very limited, only by the drawdown authority, which is only like $100 million worth of weapons a year, which is pennies on the scale of an international war. But on the flip side, and that's the way it's written right now, and it's erring on the side of caution. But on the flip side, that opens the door that if an ally was attacked and Congress was deadlocked, the value of an American alliance would be massively reduced. So there's a lot to think about. Which one of these risks is larger? Is it more risky for the United States to be shipping weapons to an ally after an attack? Or is it more risky for the United States to not send weapons fast enough and for an ally to be conquered with a rapid blitzkrieg? That is not an easy discussion, and I think with the Ukraine war, it is something we need to discuss as a nation. How do we want that to work? Some things that are obvious are that Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova need to be allowed to join NATO. Transnistria needs to be reabsorbed into Moldova. Things like that are very, very important. There's a lot to think about. When you look at other regions of the world, honestly, there aren't that many other low corruption democracies that are liable to be attacked in the world. I did a whole blog post on this, and you're filtering countries based off of current. If you look at a map of countries, you want to find countries that are significantly more democratic and smaller than their authoritarian neighbor. Well, you only have two real countries that are big risks for attacking. If you assume that authoritarian countries are more likely to do unilateral attacks on their neighbors, that leaves only two: China and Russia. Now, China is pretty constrained by trade at this point. So if China was to decide to invade Mongolia, theoretically, China would likely see massive tariffs and their economy would collapse. And who would have the ability to support China of all countries? Would India? I don't think so. India and China have a dispute with pretty serious land disputes in the Himalayas. So I will be a little surprised if China was to attack Mongolia. In terms of Taiwan, it would be a naval attack, and missiles are much cheaper than boats. So I don't think that an invasion of Taiwan is likely. Just from what is the cost of the weapons Taiwan needs versus what China needs, is that it would be a lot cheaper to defend Taiwan than it would be to attack Taiwan. And on that alone, you would see you would see China lose you would see the communists lose that war. I have really no doubt about that. I pay my toll here. I'm fine with toll roads. Oh, fuck! I wasn't straight there. Need to be lined up. Yeah, no kidding. I've beat my truck up to no end. Which one's worse? I don't know if I have an answer to that. It's an important thing to consider. Which one is worse? That's a hard decision. With the aftermath of the Ukraine war, I am inclined to believe that it is better to err on the side of deploying weapons in response to an invasion than it is to be worried about an abuse of authority. But that's a great deal because of... Oh my god, this is ridiculous. Oh, what's going on with this? So they force you to go into the service stop. And it's nighttime. Honestly, if I have the time to nap, I want to do that. Jeez, if there is a service spot here, then I need a service. Thank you. Move your trucks. And these are the discussions that need to be made. It's not an easy decision by any means, but it's a discussion that we need to have as a world in terms of Aero Baltica. Well, I don't have that stand-up anymore. Alright, we need to sleep here. I need to sleep. Gute Nacht, gute Nacht. Hours to go. It's so bright. At least I can see where I'm driving. It's pretty. Semi-arid. Steppes of the Sahara. That's Spain for you. Yeah, so you have anyways. This truck's in really bad shape. Good game. Yeah. But one thing I believe very strongly is the president should never have the authority to unilaterally tax or spend. That needs to remain in the hands of Congress. And the president absolutely should never have the authority to choose which taxation or spending will be spent. That's absolutely where I am at this point. there's like Democrats enforced the immigration law while campaigning and trying to repeal said laws because that the president doesn't get to choose which laws to follow. And now with Trump, he's saying, oh, I don't like this law, so I'm not going to enforce it. This rule, I don't like this rule, so I'm not going to enforce it. And that's just not how this country works. That's not right. Could you imagine how angry the Republicans would be if Obama had chosen, well, I don't like the way our immigration laws are written, so I'm not going to enforce our immigration laws the way they're written? Could you imagine the outrage? I can. And I think, just as Obama had to enforce Bush's arcane, ridiculous immigration rules, Trump also needs to enforce the laws as they're currently written, be it the Affordable Care Act, the American Disabilities Act, or any other law he doesn't like. It doesn't matter if he doesn't like it. He doesn't have the right to unilaterally repeal a law. That's not how this country works. That's not right. It's wrong. It's just wrong. And it cannot be tolerated. And he can be impeached for this. He can absolutely and should be impeached. But it won't happen with this current Congress, but don't be surprised if he gets impeached in 2027. I'll be a little surprised if he doesn't get impeached, honestly, given his behavior. Yeah. But if you're a rich white dude, you can do whatever you want, apparently. It seems to be the way it is. Surprise, surprise. Not really. Just follow the law, as they say. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. Okay, not this exit, probably the next exit. It's kind of funny, even though Keir Starmer is waffling on Brexit and he's a Brexiteer, when it comes to NATO, he's very NAFO, which I think is great. And kind of a little surprised, given how much he supports Brexit. But I'm glad that the UK is not waffling on Ukraine. I honestly didn't expect Starmer to be this good on Ukraine, but he's standing up to Trump, and you're hearing a lot less about, Kanzuk and all this nonsense. And that's good, because now we're seeing what a UK without, what we're seeing right now with the US is what the UK outside the EU sphere would look like. And ultimately, look at it. Who is the UK moving most with? NATO. There's no talk about Kanzuk. It's all about NATO. Because, like it or not, the UK is in Europe. And they will be in Europe because that's how geography works. And their largest trading partner will remain Europe, because trade tends to go to your neighbors first, generally speaking, unless if you have small neighbors and are have very small neighbors, then you might have the US or China as your largest trading partner. But yeah, it's interesting. Oh boy, it's almost 11 local time. I'm going to need to get some food in me soon. I only had a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast. Hoping as soon as I get my first paycheck, I'm doing a massive delivery from Costco, but until then I'm just trying to run out of the food I already have. Use it all up. Oh, I thought that cop car disappeared. See how deserted it is down here? South of Madrid is basically a desert. Yeah. I haven't driven down here yet in the game. Maybe I should go all the way down to Gibraltar. Let's see if I can. Part of me wants to get a sports car in this game and drive it all over Europe. Because I think I'm making enough money now from my staff that I don't really need to be in a truck. I'll have to check and see my income stream. But it does look like I am now making enough money to just do that instead. It's tempting. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 98 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 96 bottles of beer on the wall, 95 bottles of beer on the wall, 95 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 93 bottles of beer on the wall, 92 bottles of beer on the wall, 92 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. 91 bottles of beer on the wall, 90 bottles of beer on the wall. I'm almost to my destination. Huh, this is a real city. As opposed to an imaginary city. Ciudad Real as opposed to Ciudad Imaginario. Very ridiculous. Meh. Alright. Let's see. Okay, not this one, but the next one. Hold on.